see quite a few people in here calling me a duck. I'm a duck. Call me a duck. Call me a chicken. Call me a goat. Call me a dog. I'm not in high school anymore, guys. A grown man out here chasing his dreams. It's funny that we really live in a world where being called a duck should affect me. Guys, come on.
So it's been over a year now since Jon Jones has been yet to defend the heavyweight title. I made a video a few months ago talking about how Jon Jones avoids real competition, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Jon Jones doesn't avoid competition, he's a badass, he's the GOAT. Yeah, he's the GOAT, but he's definitely ducking Tom Aspinall. He actually proves it and admits that he's scared of Tom Aspinall. He literally doesn't want the smoke. He doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall because he's scared of losing.
Aspinall's the guy that people want to see you fight, right? So here's the question. You're fighting Stipe Miocic, and I know you're focused on that fight. If you defeat him, as you're a 6-1 favorite to win the fight, if you defeat him, will you defend your belt against Aspinall, who has the interim title?
More than likely not. More than likely not. I feel like Tom Aspinall is, I don't want to say nobody, but he just hasn't proven anything. He hasn't done anything. And
what?
I understand that.
Yeah, Tom Aspinall, you know, he just hasn't proven anything. He hasn't done anything. So let's just take a quick look at Tom Aspinall's record. Not that I need to. Submitted Alexander Volkov, a top heavyweight. Yeah, he lost to Curtis Blade, but it was an injury. Marcin Tybura, yeah, you know, don't really want to talk about that. But then he stepped in when Jon Jones got injured and couldn't fight Stipe. Beat Sergey Pavlovich, who they were calling the Russian Francis Ngannou. Knocked him out in round 1. Knocked Curtis Blades. Defended his interim belt. So he got the interim heavyweight belt and then defended it, which is more than what Jon Jones has done since he beat Cyril Gane. And this man has not gone past the second round. Knocks everybody out in the first round or submits them in the first round. But he hasn't really done much, you know.
He won his belt against Sergey. Sergey just got slaughtered by someone else. So it's just like, I'm not here to gamble someone else making a name off of me. I'm here to compete against the guys where when we look back, 10 years from now, it'd be like Jon Jones fought this guy and that guy and this legend and this champion and this champion. If there were to be a fight of a guy that's still on our UFC roster that would be not only financially worth it, but legacy worth it, it would be Alex Pereira.
Of course, Jon Jones wants to fight Alex Pereira. When you look at Alex Pereira and Tom Aspinall, ask yourself, who poses a more difficult test to Jon Jones? It's absolutely Tom Aspinall. Alex Pereira is a great fighter, already a certified legend, but he doesn't really have a ground game. Okay, so stylistically, Jon Jones is favored in that fight. Secondly, Alex Pereira came into the UFC as a middleweight, became a champion, went to light heavyweight, became a champion. And now we're talking about heavyweight. Jon Jones is not talking about going back down to fight Alex Pereira. So in two ways, in all the metrics, stylistically, that fight is favorable to Jon Jones. Now, is Alex Pereira versus Jon Jones a bigger fight? You can make an argument for that, but it's obvious he's ducking Tom Aspinall. He says it right here. It's just ridiculous to say something like, I'm not trying to take a risk of some guy making a name off me. Let me think of a fighter, a champion that they call the GOAT, who spent most of his career making a name off other fighters who were pretty much out of the way already. Like, what fighter comes to your name when you think of someone like that? It's freaking Jon Jones. Let's take a look at Jon Jones' resume. So when you look at Jon Jones' resume, all right, let's go all the way to I mean, Since he became a champion at light heavyweight, again, I'm not downplaying this man's resume. In my opinion, Jon Jones is the GOAT, but this is a whole different conversation. All these guys were not in their absolute prime. They were not in the prime that Tom Aspinall is in when he beat them. They all gave him an opportunity, okay? Not saying that it makes the fight easier. Not saying it would play out if they were in their prime. I do believe it might play out the same. Jon Jones beats all these guys in their prime because he beat some of them steadily. But it was so obvious at the end of his career at light heavyweight, things started becoming a little iffy. Okay? Objectively speaking, he lost to Dominic Reyes. There's an argument to make that Thiago Santos beat him as well. The Gustafsson fight was very, very tough for him. And then the rest of the guys that he fought, okay, maybe aside from DC, the rest of them were like in the older stages of their career. They weren't in their prime. So I think it's just hypocritical for him to say something like, oh yeah, I'm not trying to give this young guy a chance to make a name off me. He's trying to look for a legacy fight. Then he says if there was a legacy fight to have, it will be Alex Pereira. Those are two plain things to say. I don't want to fight Tom Aspinall. I'm scared. I'm ducking this guy. If this isn't ducking, then I don't know what is.
We both 37.
Light heavyweight champ.
Yeah, we're both 37 years old. Right now, I weigh about 235. I'm an incredibly light heavyweight. I think Pereira walks around at 240.
Gosh.
And I think that fight would go much farther on my legacy than a young man who's cool today and maybe gone tomorrow. I remember a time when the whole world thought Johnny Walker was going to be the guy to beat me. And no disrespect for Johnny Walker, but I mean, we all have seen the way his career's played out. I've just been here too long.
What?
Nah, he didn't just compare Tom Aspinall to Johnny Walker. I mean, it is true. There was a time that people were saying, oh yeah, Johnny Walker, his style, when he was upcoming, he showed a lot of potential that, yeah, this guy might be the guy to beat Jon Jones. But we all saw how that turned out. When Johnny Walker faced top opposition, it showed he couldn't do anything to Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall is different. He's the interim heavyweight champion who's beat everybody within the second round. Okay? And he's defended his interim championship belts at heavyweight, the top of the top of the top of the UFC. And Jon Jones hasn't defended his belt once. How can you even compare those two things? So he's like, literally, after admitting that, okay, he just doesn't want to fight Tom Aspinall. He's ducking Tom Aspinall. He doesn't want to smoke. He's actually trying to gaslight us to make some kind of case on why his ducking is legitimate. It's not. It's very, very shameful. It's embarrassing, honestly. And I don't know if it's a stretch to say that Jon Jones is tarnishing his legacy because he cemented himself as a GOAT, I guess. His light heavyweight resume, can't doubt it. He's achieved great things in this sport, but people will remember you for the most recent thing you did. And this man is absolutely ducking Tom Aspinall. I mean, it's so shameful.
I know that you've heard Dana for the last 6 or 8 months. Jon Jones is the greatest pound for pound fighter in the world. I think, you say to Dana, where are you going for dinner tonight? Well, I don't know, but Jon Jones is the greatest pound for pound fighter in the world. And you probably heard Dana and I going at it back and forth at the Contender Series, when my only argument was Jon hasn't fought in 18 months. And so he can't be pound for pound if you're not active. I just want to give you, why does being number one pound for pound mean so much to you? Because I saw you when Dana has said that, you have tweeted and gone on social media and said that. Why does that mean so much to you?
It's just an honor. That's all. It's just a huge honor to even be considered at 37 years old, one of the most well-rounded winners in our sport still. it's a huge honor, and I'm just very grateful that my boss, a man who's sat front row for every fight, all of our fights, for him to say, "Hey, listen, guys, trust me. I know what I'm watching. I know what I'm looking at. And in my opinion, if Jon was the same size as a lot of these other guys, Jon would be in the mix." I think we have a lot of new fans, a lot of younger fans who, our sport can be very, "What have you done for me lately?"
What have you done for me lately is exactly what pound for pound is. All this gaslighting of mistaking what the GOAT, who the GOAT is versus pound for pound. Like, we're not stupid, okay? He's talking about the GOAT conversation. Yes, the GOATs, all weight class equal, whatever. Jon Jones is number one, but pound for pound is specifically what have you done for me lately. When you say Jon Jones, Doug Francis Ngannou, of course you can say there's so many things that played to that. Oh yeah, Francis left to get more money, whatever, to box. You can also say Jon Jones waited all this while and signed a contract the same period that Francis left to come back to the UFC at heavyweight. I don't know who takes 3 years to bulk up or whatever. Fine. You could say Dana White didn't want to pay each of them what they wanted and fumbled the whole thing. That's fine. You can argue back and forth. What is the point of the belts? The interim belts? What is that? What's the point of that? What's the point of the heavyweight belt? Like, this is the top of the UFC. What separates the UFC from every other sport is in the UFC, in MMA, the best fight the best. That's why this is a legit sport. That's why we're in love with it. Are there big fights that could be made every day? Yes. But there is some type of legitimacy when it comes to the rankings and who's next. It's about the best fighting the best. Now, boxing, since Turkey Al-Sheikh has been running things, he's made things better. So the best are kind of finding the best again. But boxing got a lot of flack because the champion will be fighting the number 20th fighter or some can or whatever. And now it seems like that's what's happening at the UFC. And I blame a lot of this on Dana White, honestly, because he's dragged this for 2 years now. Tom Aspinall has defended the intro. Like, I've not seen a situation where the interim champion is defending his belt while the champion is fighting someone else. Like, what is the point? What are we doing here? There's no argument about this. Jon Jones is absolutely ducking Tom Aspinall. At first, it was, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But he absolutely is. And another thing I'm going to say is that he's not wrong about this whole legacy fight thing. He's actually not wrong. He's proven enough. He doesn't have anything else to prove. He doesn't need to fight Tom Aspinall. He really doesn't. But what makes this wrong is the fact that he's holding on to the heavyweight belts. Like, fine, have your legacy fight. Have your legacy fight. That's okay. You can do that. If Jon Jones says he wants to fight Stipe and go off to the sunset, he doesn't have anything to prove. I'm so sure nobody will have any problem with that. The issue is the fact that he wants to hang on to the heavyweight belt, eat his cake while he has it, and be okay. Yeah, have the legacy fight, the greatest of all time fighter, the greatest heavyweight of all time, at the same time defending the championship belt. It's illegitimate. Nobody's taking this shit serious. And speaking of defending the heavyweight belt, on top of this, UFC 309 is absolute trash, guys. Like, how can this card be the same price as UFC 300? Jon Jones versus Stipe is actually a good fight. It's actually a good fight. Jones versus Stipe is a good fight. But it shouldn't be for the heavyweight title. It just gives a bad name to the UFC, in my opinion. It dilutes the legitimacy of the best fighting the best. You got Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler as the co-main. Second time they're fighting. I mean, it's a good fight. And then everything else is like, ugh. Bonico Paul Craig. Viviane Araújo versus Karen Silva. Marisa Ruffy versus James Lontop. What? And let's not even go into the prelims. Bruh. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. He said it himself.